up on me, man. Short, bro. Like, there's literally not much to see on this topic, but I'm trying. Hey, you guys. So, as you can see by the title, I am back with another unnecessary commentary video, and this time we will be discussing colorism and That's So Raven. And here's why I'm making this video. So, like last year or the beginning of this year, I seen a comment in the comment section under a nostalgic video about That's So Raven that said there was colorism in That's So Raven because of Loca. Now, when I first seen that comment, I was a little irritated because I'm like, here go people who are way too woke trying to find problems where there are none. Like, I'm all a part of calling out colorism. You know, I don't mind it because, hello, I'm dark skinned. Like, I'm very much going to call it out when I see it. But I also had to check myself because I'm like, you are a hardcore fan of That's So Raven. Okay, so you might be a little bit biased. I rewatched the show, this time paying more closer attention to see if I spot any colorism, and again, I did not. So then, I'm looking at deep dive videos about old shows, and I think to myself, let's see if they have any for That's So Raven. And as I'm typing in That's So Raven, I see something about colorism, and I watched the person's video for a little bit, and it's mostly going on and on and on about Loca and her character. And I'm just like, okay, Loca is always a character who is misunderstood. So let me explain why there is no colorism in That's So Raven and why Loca cannot be used as an argument. In my opinion, this is just my opinion. People may feel differently, and a lot of people do actually. So let's get right into this. So this time I got my notes. So if I'm looking down, this is why. And the first thing I want to talk about is Loca's attitude. So people always say that Loca is a mean, aggressive person, and that's why they think that there was colorism, because why did she have to be tall, dark skinned, and she was the more, how should we put this, the more handsy one of the bullying group, of Alana's crew. She was the one who would actually put hands on people, so that made her more aggressive than the rest, I guess. But to me, it had nothing to do with skin tone. It had everything to do with height. So I would say there was a, I don't know what you would call, I don't know if there's an ism for height, but it was definitely that. I don't think it had anything to do with her skin tone, because I feel like if anybody on that team was colorist, there were way too many dark-skinned cast members on that show who didn't display any signs of colorism fueled behavior. Because we had Tanya, we had Cindy, we had who else did we have that was dark skinned? It was a lot of people, and none of these people were bad people. They all were actually really good, and I'm going to get into those characters later. But for now, let's talk about Loca. Loca, she was actually a nice girl. You can't convince me otherwise. If Alana didn't have such control of her, she definitely could have been friends with Raven, Chelsea, and Eddie. She was crazy about Eddie for one reason or another. Anytime Raven would be nice to her, she would kind of be nice back to her. Like, you could tell Loca was one of them people who was nice, but she was stuck with, you know, her friend group. Like, that's the group that accepted her, tall and all. And that's the group she went with, even though she could have very well left them at any time and been cool with Raven, Eddie, and Chelsea, in my opinion. That's how I view her. I liked Loca's character. Like, I didn't like how handsy she was, but she was a cool girl. Like, when I seen her get excited over freaking s'mores, I knew, I'm like, yeah, that girl's soft on the inside. She is so freaking soft. Like, who gets excited over s'mores? Besides me, I like s'mores, so there's that. But yeah, so I'm like, that girl, she ain't all that hard. Like, that's all an act. I really think the people who chose the cast weren't even focused on skin tone. It was more so her height, because people always think of tall people as like more aggressive, and I don't understand that, because I know a lot of tall people and they are so freaking soft. Like, don't get me wrong, when they need to, they do what they gotta do with their height. But for the most part, they're the nicest people ever. So it's such a horrible stereotype. We're going to talk about the other dark-skinned characters of the show, just to further explain why I don't feel like anybody on the cast and crew that's Raven was colorist in any way. I don't know if you guys remember Cindy, not Sydney, but Cindy, who was Corey's girlfriend. She was a beautiful dark-skinned girl. I remember seeing her and I was like, oh my god, I want to look like her. Like, she's freaking pretty. And Cindy was a very nice girl. Nothing was wrong with her. She didn't have no stereotypical behavior. She wasn't neck rolling, hand on hip, all of that. Like, there was maybe one episode where she did that, but it's because she was mad at Corey because Corey did something bad. That was literally the only time, and it was warranted. So, you know, her character, she was no type of stereotype at all. Now let's talk about Tanya. Tanya was a full-blown law student. Smart, beautiful. She wasn't a mean mom to her children at all. She was very caring. She was perfect, like quite literally perfect. So again, colorism, still not seeing it. Let's talk about Corey. Another dark skin, he's a male, because yes, males can experience colorism as well. Nothing about him screamed colorism. Corey was literally all about money the entire show. Money and girls, and that was it. That's not a stereotype. I don't care what skin tone, color you are, what race you are. If you're a boy, 9 times out of 10, when you're like 12, 13 years old, you're into girls and money, and that's it. Everything else just doesn't matter. And video games. So, again, not seeing the colorism. I'm looking. I don't see it. But let's keep going. Stanley definitely didn't see any colorism problems with him. He was just, again, money, women, well, specifically Raven, money, Raven, and he was just a scammer. Like, I don't know that if you want to say that that's got colorism attached to it and then making him a scammer, I feel like that would be a bit of a reach, but I could see that, I guess. Like, I'll give y'all that one, but nobody ever talks about that. They always talk about Loca, which with that argument, it literally can be debunked in like 2 minutes. So yeah, I don't know, like that's the most dark-skinned people. If you want to talk about Orlando Brown, I guess, but to me he's more, well, he's dark-skinned. You know, Orlando Brown was a great character. He was the comedy relief, which that's not colorism, but I will say a lot of these shows and channels use black people as comedy relief. So I don't know what you want to call that, but it's something. And we can be funny, but we need to have more substance. And I'll give Eddie that. He had a lot of substance besides being funny. He was an athlete, which that's teetering on the line of possible stereotyping, but not for colorism, just for being black. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about colorism. But yeah, I will say that That's the Raven, along with other Disney shows and Nickelodeon shows, had a lot of stereotyping towards all shades of black people, not just dark skin. But right now we're talking about colorism. Stereotyping, whole other video. A little too deep for me to get into on my channel personally, so I don't know. If I ever decide to, it will be down the line. But I want to get into more fun videos, so after this one, yeah. I don't know if I'm going to have any more serious ism topics. But, okay, so the next thing I want to discuss is the fact that a lot of what I would say were aggressive and not so great characters were actually non-black or light-skinned. Alana is number 1. She was horrible. Terrible. Muffy, number 2. Muffy is the other girl in the friend group. I'll post a picture of her if you don't remember her by name. Then we had Alana's replacement, Bianca, who was, I actually don't know what that girl was as far as race or ethnicity. She was very pretty. She was a very mean girl who was only nice for like 1 episode. I think she only lasted for like 1 or 2 episodes out of the series. I don't know. But yeah. And then we had, there were just so many mean people who came and go. Y'all, I can't speak. It's late. Look, it's late at night. I'm trying. I'm really trying. But I'm low-key delirious because I have not slept in days. So bear with me if I'm like messing up my words a lot. there were a lot of characters who came and went who were not so great people, and all of those characters were either non-black or light skinned. This video is gonna be mad short. You know, short answer, I don't see colorism in That's So Raven. I truly don't. I tried to find it. I put all my biases aside. Like, when I tell you, I started thinking about this months ago. I could have been made this video, but I wanted to thoroughly make sure that I wasn't being biased, and I wasn't. There's literally no colorism in That's So Raven. There's a bit of stereotyping, as there is with most kid shows on these networks, but there's no direct colorism. There's just too much to debunk that idea. The only problem that I have with That's So Raven was the fact that I didn't feel like there were enough dark-skinned main characters, and even that could be a lie because, like I just named, Raven, Tanya, Cindy, all of them were pretty much main characters at a certain point. Even that was debunked. So to me, Raven did a really good job with That's So Raven because, first of all, Raven made sure that they did right by black people on that show. As she got older, she started to get behind the camera a little bit. So I know that she played a hand in making sure that they handled stuff right. And I know people are gonna be like, well, she clearly now, and this. I don't care what y'all gotta say about Raven now. How you feel about her right now is irrelevant. But back then, she really made sure that we were treated right on her show at least. She couldn't do much about the other shows, but for her show, she did a very good job, and I really don't see the colorism. I see slight stereotypes, but not colorism, and I don't think that That's Raven deserves to be in the same conversation as shows that had obvious colorism in them. I just don't. So that's all I have to say on that. This was a really short video, I guess, and yeah, there was not much to say about colorism in That's So Raven. It literally doesn't exist, and I don't know how people are able to make videos on something that's quite literally easy to debunk, but I get it. I will see you guys in my next video, and my next video will probably be more lighthearted because I don't want to get all caught up in like political type stuff. It's just not my thing. So okay, y'all, I can't do this no more. I'm tired. I don't even know how to end this video, so I'll just see y'all in the next one.